actually going to be doing an interview of Robin Hall from VARC, and we're so thankful that Robin was able to join us today. We're really excited. This is the first time we're doing any type of interview. So if you guys have feedback or questions, please feel free to jump in. But without going to further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Robin to introduce herself, say hello to everyone at the office hours, and we'll get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. So as Matt said, my name is Robin Hall. I am the owner and principal consultant at VARC Solutions. We are primarily a QuickBooks shop, and about 10 years after we started doing QuickBooks, we added Quickbase in because a lot of our clients had QuickBooks and Quickbase, and we really saw how that can enhance their business and do other things. So we've been doing probably Quickbase for about 15 years. We've been working with Juice for most of that time. Keith and Todd and I met early on after they kind of put our programs together, and we have been a fan of the Juice tools and using their tools all of that time. And so we always look forward to seeing new ones come out, how we can use those, how we can be creative with our clients and get them over some humps that they're having and change workflows for the better for them. So we love the add-ons, and we have them, I would say, in about 95% of our clients' databases. It's that last 5% that I'm trying to get over the hump there. So that's a little bit about me.
Robin,
Do you want me to?
I heard something in there that I don't know if I put two and two together, but you started as when Quickbase was owned by Intuit. So there was two separate programs for Quickbase and QuickBooks.
Yeah, so years and years ago, there was two separate programs, and somebody had the infinite wisdom to kind of put those together. And so I was the person that jumped over and said, oh, Quickbase is a wonderful thing. And I straddled both camps, and it was a game changer for me and for my clients. And so I don't think anybody else jumped on that bandwagon and did both, but we have a unique perspective in our clients that use QuickBooks. We put in Quickbase for their operations, and then we connect those two. So we've worked with Juice on their QuickBooks clients and then making that happen for what they build in Quickbase and then pushing it over to QuickBooks. But yeah, we've been with Quickbase for a long time, back since when it started with Intuit.
Right.
We weren't there when it was prior to that. We jumped on. Intuit was the second owner of Quickbase.
Right. I think I might have been way back in high school, maybe even earlier. But
I think you were in elementary back then.
For you.
Well, we won't go into there. Okay, so that's awesome. I didn't know that. It's a nice little tidbit. So just curious, you mentioned how you have 95% of it. There you go. We have some fellow Intuit alumni here.
There you go.
You talked about how your clients use our add-ons, but I just want to go into first a little bit about how you guys also use our add-ons and Quickbase in general to help run your business. I know that was something we spoke about.
Yeah, so with everything that we do for our clients, if I can use a tool or something in my own practice, then I try and do that myself so that I can see the good, the bad, the ugly, and I'm not just selling a product to sell a product, but I know that product inside and out. I know what it can do. I know, if there's something that doesn't work quite right, I know how to get around it and things that we need to do. So I'm a firm believer in using products that we sell. And so we heavily use the Juice tools for our own company. So we run our company on Quickbase and QuickBooks. We do a lot of our sales. We are a reseller for Intuit stuff. We track all of the sales and commissions and everything on it. We have 200 people underneath us selling products. And so we have to keep track of all of that. Well, at the end of the month, we have to give them commission statements. So those are run on Exact Forms Plus. I don't want to send out 200 emails, so we have that on Courier. With one click of the button, 200 statements are created, and another click of the button, 200 statements are emailed out. And so it is an amazing thing that saves us so many man hours and and all of the automation in there just helps us. The other thing that we use that is just an amazing tool is the connection to DocuSign. So when we onboard all of our clients, we put in the information into Quickbase, we send them out a contract, they give us information, it writes it back to QuickBooks, but then we have a signed legal document. So on a daily basis, we are touching Juice every single day with either DocuSign or Exact Forms, PDF Merger, or Courier. And so those are just the tools that we use internally here on a daily basis, let alone just other tools that we have for once in a while processes that still save us a tremendous amount of time.
Now, Robin, something you said that kind of stuck with me there was how you want to kind of flesh out the products before you sell it to anyone. And I think
Yeah.
that's important too, because I know with my own experience, everything became easier as I understood our products more and more. Just from like your team, because I've actually visited you guys down in Texas
Yeah.
before, which was a great time. It was back, I think, October. And you guys have an awesome team there. How long do you think it takes for a typical team member of yours to kind of understand not only Quickbase, but also the add-ons that you guys use for your clients?
So it's funny that you asked that because when you guys were here, and I will say I did enjoy that you guys were here in October. It was baseball playoff time, and so that my Astros were playing the Yankees when you guys were here. That was just a little extra joy that I got.
Oh, you
But
set that
anyway,
one up.
Yeah,
yeah,
I wasn't going to bring that up, but that's
we did win that game too. But that's let me get back to the question. So one of the things that we did is when you guys were here, we reviewed all the tools. So some of the tools we were very familiar with. Some of them we were like, oh, what does that one do? And so it was a good time for my team to kind of reset and look at some of the tools that we hadn't looked at. And immediately on a couple of them, we were like, I have a use for that. I can put that in tomorrow. So we took all of y'all's tools, put them up on our whiteboard, kind of put, and we went through and we had somebody set up each one of those that night. We kind of do kind of a cobbler night. And so where we sit and just work on our business, and we worked on Juice that night. And so then after you guys left, one of the things that we did is we went through all of them. We said, okay, if we onboard a new developer, not only their skills with Quickbase, what do we want them to know at the 3-month, 6-month, 9-month mark, but in the Juice tools, because they are so intricate in what we do, which tools should they know immediately out of the gate? Then the next set of tools, what are those that they should learn? So, there's definitely some that we hit on the, hey, you're by 90 days in, you should be an expert in setting up these tools, which are the main tools, and I call them the power tools. I think you guys call them something else, but it's Exact Forms Plus, the PDF Stamper, DocuSign. Those are the ones that we see, that's our foot in the door with our clients. And
Right.
once they see the ease and the savings that it has with those, then we can introduce some other tools, unless there's just a specific need out of the gate. But most of our clients have Exact Forms, and we start there, get the foot in the door, and that's why my developers, by 90 days, they should be an expert in Exact Forms and setting those up, setting them up for a client. And then we have other tools that it's like, okay, in 90 more days, these are the tools that you need to be an expert on. And then at the 9-month mark, you should be able to do all of them.
Right.
So I want all of my developers within 9 months to be an expert in all of your tools.
Absolutely. And that's awesome to hear. And, we probably should have some sort of same regimen guideline as well, because, honestly, it depends on the add-on, of course. It's one that's very popular is Exact Forms Plus, like you mentioned. So that's, our bread and butter. And we usually do have, that by, week 2, Exact Forms Plus inside and out. And I think for many of our clients too, they've found that, Exact Forms Plus or Courier or Excel Docs are the add-ons that they understand more. But feedback that we've gotten is, there's other add-ons that we have that are not necessarily those power tools, as you mentioned, the ones that are commonly used, but have those power tool capabilities.
Yeah, they're very powerful. The other ones are very powerful. They're just not as commonplace. And
Right.
so that's why when you guys came down, I'll give you an example of one, the file importer. Like
Yep.
I'd seen that on the website and just always just passed it by because it didn't resonate with me. And then
Right.
once you guys explained it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have somebody that needs that right now. So we have someone that gets this spreadsheet that is 50 plus columns of a download from FedEx and UPS, and they need about 4 columns of that data. But they were having someone program the Excel sheet, put a macro on it, and then run this macro. And the problem was if that guy wasn't around, then my client couldn't run their macro because they weren't savvy in macros. Well, what we did is we set up the importer tool. So he just clicks a button, uploads it. We say this is a UPS mapping or a FedEx mapping. And the spreadsheet that he gets from that company is the same exact every time. So he just uploads it, and then it puts in just the 4 columns that he needs. And he doesn't have to delete columns, mess with it. He can 100% download from FedEx, import to Quickbase, and he has his work done. This is something that was taking him 10 days out of the month to produce, and it's how he billed his client. And
Wow.
now he's getting it done in about less than 5 minutes.
Wow. So I mean that's a real obvious value saver right there. I mean, 10 days to 5 minutes. Of course, that probably took a little bit of time up front to configure. Would you happen to
Yeah.
know like how long it took you guys to kind of flesh out from workflow to configure to actual first success?
So honestly, the hardest part was getting from him the process. Because when we would say, give us your raw data, he would give us the manipulated spreadsheet. And I'm like, no, 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 I want your raw data. And so every time it was, so getting the requirements from him, like he had the end, what he wanted at the end. I'm like, okay, I can do all of that. I can build those graphs. I can build the document that you're going to send to your client. All of that, I got that. I need how you get the information. And that was harder than doing the development in Quickbase.
Right.
And so once we did it, I think once we got that requirement, I think it was a couple of hours to set it up, but the phone calls with him were actually longer than the development work.
Right. Sometimes it's a matter of kind of peeling back the layers to find out what the actual information you need. You know, I'm dating
Yeah,
myself, but
that's usually, I mean, with Quickbase in general, that's the hardest thing because we understand the workings of it. They understand the end product of what they want. And sometimes they're building, I always tell people, it's okay to build in flight. You know, we're building the airplane while we're flying it. But it does come with its own, challenges. And so sometimes people don't know what they want. Sometimes you get 3 people on the phone and they go, this is our process. Somebody else goes, no, it's not. This is our process. And so getting the client aligned on their process is probably the hardest part, and sometimes the most challenging part. Getting the tools and it built in, that's the piece of cake. It's getting really what they need down. So those are some of the things that we have. But the importer probably became one of my favorite tools just because I'm like, this is amazing that I can take this information and I don't have to teach them how to do an import in Quickbase. Because we can do it natively in Quickbase, but you have to make sure your header columns are named right. You have to make sure that you're just pulling that information in. You have to get it aligned right. You then have to give people permissions that I don't always like to give out. So, with the Juice tool, it prevented a lot of human error and it prevented a lot of permission issues that I don't like to give out.
right. And a lot of stuff that I found with our clients that I work with for easy file importers, they actually can't restructure that data every single time. So they
Right.
might be getting it from a third party to them, which provides that sheet, and then they are trying to upload it to Quickbase. You can't obviously tell them to change their process. Now you're 3 legs down the ladder trying to make things work. So easy file importer can conform to what is needed. So I think that's a great one.
And you know what, Robin? Sorry, Matthew, just
Hey, go
to
ahead.
interject that we actually automated, we went one step further for another customer, Robin. I don't know if you ever had this use case, but they were actually receiving their Excel sheet via email, and then they were saving it down and obviously then putting it into a Quickbase record, and it was taking off and importing for them. But then they said, you know what? I said, well, we could use our email parser. If you email it to us at night, we'll save it to the record already automatically for you, and it'll take off, and it'll be sort of a complete hands-off operation. So that was another sort of, a lot of times our add-ons, like you probably know, they work hand in hand with each other, and they kind of can set each other off. And that's what this particular process helped. The email parser just took it, saved it, and then the easy file importer took off and done. So they don't even have to do anything anymore from retrieving a spreadsheet.
Yeah, one of the things you just said is your tools work hand in hand, and so I think that's one of the reasons that I really love the tools. When you guys were down here, we had exact forms, and then we had the the PDF stamper, and then another document that they would have to do to it. And one of the things that you guys taught us when you were down here is putting that it's 3 different things. So we were having them hit 3 different buttons. And so now we can kind of embed that so it's one process. So even with all the years that we've been using it, finding those hidden gems of putting those tools hand in hand. And one thing that I've learned is if there's something that has a really good use case and it's not a one-off use case, then talking to Keith and Todd and saying, hey, have you thought about this? Then you guys have in the past put it in the queue and added things in there for us. So again, as long as it's not that one-off, this one customer will use it one time, but yeah, a lot of people will be able to benefit from this. And your tools having the handoffs is an amazing thing. It really helps things, and it becomes more seamless. And so you may be using 3 tools, but the user is clicking one button, and they don't know that it's using 3 tools behind the scenes.
Right. So I think that's a huge part of it too, is how things collaborate with each other. And a couple of the use cases we spoke about too, one of them being the commission payments you mentioned before, easy file importer, which then you end up making into an exact forms plus document. How you take that raw data and actually make it into something, business professional that you could actually give to people, and expect them to now DocuSign sign it, because you're actually making a true document rather than just having a cluster of raw data.
Yeah, we with Intuit, we have resellers underneath us, and our commission payments that we pay out and then we tell people what they're doing are actually more professional than what Intuit sends us. So, I'm pretty proud of that fact that our partners they're more in tune and more on top of things than we're actually getting from a very large, used to be owner of Quickbase, and how they're getting it, because they aren't really using the power of Quickbase. They're using it like a jumbled spreadsheet instead of really tackling the power and adding things on. So we take our, like I said, over 200 partners, get their commissions. Quickbase does its thing. And we have a lot of things that are natively done in Quickbase, but the end result is a commission statement. We let the partners log into Quickbase, see that, but we also email them out that PDF copy. And so in one click of the button, it's actually 4, because I can only do 50 at a time, but that's okay. But I can create those 200 PDFs, and then with one click, then I can go ahead and send all of those out. And so my partners are getting their commission statements timely, professional looking. I'm not having to go and manually do every one and touch every one of those 200 commission statements.
Right.
But Robin, let me jump in here.
I'm seeing him bite his
Yeah.
lip. I knew where he was going with this.
You can use the batch processor, and then you won't have to only do 50 at a shot.
Yep.
So I know, and that tool's been set up on there for so long. So
Yes.
Sometimes it's
fine.
Right, the web version, when you click a button and the web version is going to limit you to 50. And the reason for that is because it's running in a web environment. So to make it more efficient, we have a batch processor that kind of runs outside of the web, but that's why we allow you to do a lot more on a single button click if you use the batch processor, and we can certainly help you set that up.
See, I'm with Laura. If it's not broke, like I'm okay hitting the button. I'm okay hitting the button 4 times.
You're right.
But you're right. You have made some improvements on there, but the old way still works. And
Mhm.
so
Yep.
we had bigger fish to fry, Keith. I'd rather
Yeah.
add more tools than fix that old one, but it still works. But again, that's solid technology that's been working for a decade, and so it's great. And I don't have to upgrade. You aren't making me upgrade to it, and it still works and it still does what I need. And so I know I'm on a solid foundation. And so when you guys come out with new tools, that makes me feel good that I'm not like, well, let me, thoroughly 100% test everything, and I can't launch this until I've done a year's worth of testing. I know that's gone through the vetting process because I know all the tools tried and true. And so I'm trusting Juice to have done a lot of that because they've never failed me before. So,
Well, I saw Keith jumping at the bit for that one.
I know he was just jumping. I got to make him jump a little bit. But can I tell you about a couple other ones that there's 2 more specific examples that I want to go over with you.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
another one is I have a company that does that goes into office buildings, and they move some furniture, they resell some stuff, and they recycle stuff. So across Canada and the United States, they have movers, resellers, and recyclers. Well, when they're bidding a job, they go out to different places because they're, again, all over Canada and all over the United States, and they put in QB maps to say, hey, within 50 miles of this job site, who's the resellers, who's the recyclers, who's the movers around this job site, and then they know who to send out the bids to for that job. So before, it was a very manual process. They had to remember. It was hard to onboard people because there was so much tribal knowledge that was just in their sales reps' heads. Now they have a tool that, as they're keeping their vendors up to date, they have a tool that will tell them, hey, here's who's within 50 miles. You know what? I didn't have anybody within 50 miles. They can change the radius and they can put in 100 miles and they can update that. And it shows it to them right on the screen. It drops pins on there. It's interactive, and then it can take them back to their record in Quickbase. So that was one that we set up on QB Maps that was pretty cool. Previous to that, I was like, oh, Maps, I can just show where all my clients are. But this was a real live, how do I work? How do I be more efficient and getting the information that I need so that I can send out bids?
That's a great one. That really is. And that's one of those add-ons that, people might look at it and only see what you just said. Oh, and I can plot some pins on a map. But there's a lot more use cases to it. I know James is on this call. James is an expert at maps, and the use cases that we help out sometimes with are really sometimes mind-blowing. But that's a great one.
Yeah, my other favorite one, which we did this was probably the first one besides our own company that we had the most tools in there. And so this was a government contractor, and they hired across the country. And so when they hired across the country, they would send this manual paperwork that you're putting your name in, on the employee handbook and the company information sheet and the W-4 and the insurance and every form you can think of when you get hired somewhere, and there's a gajillion of them when it's a government contractor. One, they use Quickbase so that they fill in their name one time, and then it puts it on all the forms. Well, before they were using Quickbase, they were doing all that manually, and they were sending this packet via FedEx across the country. So they were in the East, and they would send it over to the West Coast. People would fill it out, then they would FedEx it back. And then they're like, oh, you didn't fill out these 2 pieces of paper, or you didn't sign this one. And then they would send it back. So there was a lot of back and forth. And when they're hiring 50 people at a time and having all these FedExes go back and forth, and then when it was completely done and the applicant sent it back to the home office, then the home office had to send it over to the supervisor. So that was a lot of headache. So we built out everything that they needed for all the forms. They fill in the information one time in Quickbase, and then we use Exact Forms Plus, and we use the stamper because some of them were W-4 forms, and we didn't need to redo those forms. We just needed the information stamped on there. Then we batched it, and then we sent it via DocuSign, and then via DocuSign, it would send it to the applicant. They couldn't miss a box. And then once the applicant signed everything, then it would auto-generate it over to whoever their supervisor was. And then when the supervisor signed it, then it would go back to the home office. And so again, they took weeks and lots of FedEx charges back and forth they could get somebody onboarded in a day.
Wow.
And then they used our tool to send it over to QuickBooks from there. So again, they never entered the information except for the employee's name and email, and the employee did the rest through Quickbase and through your tools. And then the staff never had to enter in any of that information anywhere. And so it took all of those tools, but they saved weeks upon weeks, and they could hire a site in a day, maybe a couple days.
So powerful to hear how these bottlenecks can be relieved through these tools. A lot of what I've heard in my experience, with our clients is that they have these, workflows that have kind of just been around for years. And, you actually used a phrase that I wrote down because I've never heard it before, but I loved it: tribal knowledge, where people just kind of know, okay, this is how it's done, and have just done it like that way for years. And they kind of pass it down from employee to employee. These are actual business functions that you're building out that are workflows that people can follow and get things done so much quicker. And obviously weeks to days.
When I bring in somebody new here to VARC, because we have everything in Quickbase, like they're learning our processes because it's built and the workflow is built in Quickbase. And so besides all the stuff we do with the Juice tools, but onboarding somebody here and what we do is so much easier because the systems are set, their dashboards are set, their workflow is set. And so that makes it, because a lot of times I go into companies and there's Robin's way of doing things and she does her job this way, but then Keith comes in and does his part, and then Matt comes in and does his part. Well, Matt and Robin may have the same job, but they do things very different. Yep. And so that is personality based. And so if Matt leaves, then the next person is reinventing the wheel for themselves. Right. Where when we build systems and we put these in and add these tools, then they are company based. And so regardless of the person that's there, people are important, but the system is what's driving thing and not the person. So people invented the system. They're the ones that said this is how the system should go, but then the system drives the workflow. And so you're getting more consistent results, and you're getting a more professional look. Your clients are getting a more professional look from you. And so it helps all the way around. Your internal staff and your external, how people see you, is the same, regardless of who it's coming from. And Quickbase and the tools are a lot of that. A lot of people that we help, like with salesmen and stuff, when we're doing exact forms, well, he goes in and does Excel. This one goes in and does Word. All of their documents look just a little bit different. And sometimes they're even using different logos on their templates that they're using. When we put it in Quickbase, when we use exact forms, when we do it company-wide, then you have one company image, and it's the same regardless of who's doing it. And nothing is personality-based.
And I love that too, and I'm writing that down, one company image. And I feel like that's such an important part of this, because you're getting a consistent workflow. And of course, you can have many templates with any of our document generation add-ons. But once you make it, you're getting something consistent each time. That logo is going to fall in the exact same spot on your PDF every single time, because you're not having that manual turnover, and you're not having, individuals spending, kind of wasting time copying and pasting information from.
Well, more important too is not the consistency is great, but what happens about pricing changes? Like one salesperson might be quoting somebody one value and somebody else is quoting another value. So bringing it in, centralizing it, and producing the same type of document to everybody. At least now we know that the right information is going out to the customers, as well as it looks consistent and it looks very professional. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure we're quoting the right pricing so that, you know, that we're managing expectations from all customers.
Right.
Yeah, and Keith, you mentioned that, and you know, like I said earlier, all of my clients are are QuickBooks clients as well. And so, you know, you can do quoting in QuickBooks, but what I can't do in QuickBooks is, hey, if I have a salesperson and they go below a profit margin, if they're selling tangible goods, if they go below a profit margin, I can't have it route to a manager to say this is okay. I can do that in Quickbase. So even things that are in QuickBooks that are just native in QuickBooks, I actually take those, and if we need higher functions, pull those into Quickbase so that they can do the approvals and the routing and the workflow management in there. You can, instead of doing a document in QuickBooks and sending it out through there, again, I can send it out through Quickbase. I can use Exact Forms. I can use Courier. I can get the approvals in there, all of that in Base. And then what I tell people is when it becomes financially relevant is when we hit QuickBooks. QuickBooks can do so many things, but when those so many things grow is when you need Quickbase. And so when I have Quickbase, it's all of my operations, and QuickBooks becomes my financially relevant information, and Quickbase does everything else. And then the tools really help my image, my one company persona that's shown out to my clients. I've got one more example that I want to go over that once we figured out how to use Excel Docs, it became an amazing tool.
Yeah.
So I have a client that moves the freight containers off of the cargo ships,
Mhm.
and so built them this elaborate Quickbase. But for their billing department, they needed to have an Excel document with certain tabs so that it can go to their billing department. It can go and be uploaded into their third party, their customers' portal system, and it had to be exact. And it was like, I think there was like 10 tabs on there, but every tab had to be lined out exactly the same. And again, they were spending days upon days because they're unloading these cargo ships 24 hours. They have several shifts, several people doing it, and the billing department is just crunching out numbers from people that are out on the dock working on a computer. So you can imagine the data that they were getting in their Excel spreadsheet. So they brought it into Quickbase, and then once that development was done in there, they were like, great, now we need our billing department to get this. It's one thing to have them just have a Quickbase report or download it into Excel, but I need it in this format, and I need it laid out this way, and I need it consistent. And so that's where we brought in Excel Docs. And I think we did that when it was fairly new, and so we were learning along with it. And once we've got it down, it's an amazing tool because you can tell things, you know, start on this tab, start at cell C4. This is what I need, where I need information to go. And then again, your formatting's done. So I don't have to do something one place and then reformat it somewhere else. I'm configuring all of that in there.
Absolutely. And Excel Docs is definitely something that we see is becoming even more and more popular now as people are transitioning away from Excel sheets to Quickbase. There's still some of their business workflows or some of their clients or vendors that need these Excel sheets, like you're saying, in a specific format every single time. And they're spending, you know, either days or in your case, even weeks, just making these, you know, same sheets over and over again. A whole person's job, you know, basically is doing this. And of course, with a click of a button.
Yeah, let me hit upon that. So I had somebody the other day go, boy, if you can do this, then you're going to eliminate, you know, somebody's job. And I said, no, if we do it right, you're going to be able to use that person in a more valuable manner than manipulating the data that you already have. So, you know, the fear of, well, if I automate this, then work's going to go away. Well, no, the more efficient you come, the more work is able to come in and the more profitable that company is able to be. And so, you know, that I think sometimes for that person that we're dealing with is a fear because they're like, well, no, this is what I do all day. And it's like, nope, you don't need to do that. You can do higher functioning, higher thinking tasks and be more advantageous to that company.
Right, right. And I think that's actually a great way of phrasing it. There is better things you could be doing than transferring data from Quickbase to Excel or the other way, since we have Easy File Importer. But there's this better, higher level tasks that can be accomplished if you have tools like this, and to save you time, and of course, potentially make your company more money if you're able to complete more tasks. That's great. That's awesome. So that was, manifest for freight containers. So I think that those were some of the use cases we spoke about. The hiring process one definitely hits home for me, because I think, I've seen other places and workflows I've helped build out that people really need to be able to generate that document, which is part one, but then to be able to send it out is like a whole nother animal. And people always are like, oh, wow, you could do the whole process with just a few clicks of the button. Something that I've been working on recently is actually, we have something called Package Builder, which allows you to kind of make all of these documents and send it out, and merge it together with one click. So that
Yeah.
sounds kind of like the Package Builder too.
Yeah, that's what we've done with a recent one. I have a client that we meet once a week, and every week he just gives us more stuff, and we do that. And so that's one of the things that we've done is we have an onboarding for his employees, and then we have a separate onboarding for his contractors, because they have different forms. But at the end, it's one button that once the information's filled in, it's one button, and then it builds everything that they need. So it's that package builder, and then it's sent out through them. So, and they've changed things from one of my clients that we talked about earlier. They've changed it from, they had tools with several different companies, and what they wanted to do was, because the Juice tools work hand in hand, they were like, I want to change everything over to the Juice tools. As long as they have a tool for it, I want to use their tool, because I know they're going to talk to each other. I know they can link together, and we can work hand in hand with those.
So you kind of walked right into, really my next question, which was going to be, when you talk to people about bringing on these external tools, what would be like the first thing you say about the benefits? And we've talked about a couple benefits, just conforming to a certain workflow, or conforming to a certain company image. Is there any other benefits that you happen to mention, or are that really the main ones?
Yeah, so I mean, depending on the client and what they're using, I have one right now that we're changing over from Exact Forms to Exact Forms Plus. And so Exact Forms is just harder to manipulate, harder to manage. I can't get the look and feel without a lot of manipulation the way that I want it. Because like Exact Forms Plus, I'm starting with a Word template, then I can really have it the way that I want. When I'm working in Exact Forms, the native in Quickbase, it's web-based. It looks a little wonky. It's harder to manage. Where things wrap and things, placement of things is not as intuitive as I would like it. And so just having some of those and walking through the look and feel, walking through that, it's going to attach your document. You're going to have it right here. Everybody can see it. A lot of times I listen to their pain points, and then my spiel, if you want to call it that, is never the same, because I'm hitting on their pain points and what they're trying to relieve. And this is what I need, and I need to know when, Susie Q sent it out, and I need to know when the customer did this, and I need to have a wet signature. All of those things is, I basically give them answers back to their pain points. And that's really how I sell the Juice tools, is for every pain point that they have, if I can solve it with the Juice tool, then that's what we do. And so I don't have a set thing that I always say, but it's definitely relieving their pain points.
That's awesome. I think that's a perfect answer, because in the end of the day, you have to help the client for their needs, and if you have a solution for their needs, whether it's one of our tools, one of your tools, or Quickbase in general, of course, you want to make sure that you provide that to them.
Yeah, and I think we
Yeah,
work
and
with a lot of partners in that same way. It's like, you as a Quickbase developer, partner, builder, you need to provide a solution for your customer. If you know you can get a solution from somebody else who has a repeatable solution that's something that works consistently and you know that it's always going to be up and running, then you want to provide that solution. And if you can do it through a third party, as long as you have a good relationship, then it's a great way to provide that solution to that customer. So, Robin is one of many partners we work with. Robin's probably been the longest one we've been working with and the one we have the closest relationship with, but we do this with other partners as well for the same reasons. And Robin, the question too, I noticed you have a bunch of customers that use our Text My QB, Text My Quickbase add-on. Do you have any use cases you can share around that?
yeah, I forgot. I didn't write that one down, but yes, I do. So I have mostly my construction clients. So I have someone that installs drywall, and so they're for new builders. And so they go in, and when their guys are going out there, that's fine. There's no homeowner there. But when they go back and do patchwork, because they have to guarantee it for a year, and so when they go out there, there's a homeowner there, and so they send a text when it's going to be, when they have their scheduled, and they make sure that they know somebody over 18 has to be there. This is the time that's coming. This is who's coming. And then they can reply back if that's not a good scheduled time. So they're not having to have email. It's instant on their phone. I think most of us are on our phones more, and texting is becoming more relevant for just kind of quick touch points. And so that way they can warn who's coming, confirm the appointment, and then they have a place that they can respond back. So it's mostly around those scheduled appointments, and it's that person that you don't know who's coming to your house. So yes, Fred is going to be at your house tomorrow at 1. Please make sure someone over 18 will be there.
That's great. That's great.
That is great. And that's certainly one of the use cases that I've helped people through. And Text My QB is another one that's kind of more up and coming recently because, as people are kind of on their phones more and more, reminders. I'm sure if you've gone to a doctor or you've had someone who's a freelance painter or whatever it might be, you're getting those text reminders, and to be able to send that out on an automated schedule or even by hand, it makes a big difference than someone just texting away.
So the Text My QB, I don't know how long ago it was that you guys did this, but the one that I remember, and it's coming up on cookie season now, is the find out where the closest Girl Scout cookie stand is. I think that's amazing because we all need more Girl Scout cookies in our life. So,
Yeah.
That's the example of that one that I always remember. But that can be used for so many different things. Is if you're putting something out there, where can people get information back from your Quickbase?
Right. That was a really cool one because that use case was querying Quickbase instead of sending messages out. There was someone would send text in their zip code to Text My QB. We would receive that. We'd query their Quickbase application for the locations and the times that they were doing sales, and say send all of the locations back that are part of that zip code or within X miles from that zip code, and it would send back the location so that someone had a cookie.
If you have a Thin Mint crisis, it's good. I mean,
yes. But it was a great use case, and that was our very first implementation of Text My QB. So I'm glad you brought that one up.
Yeah.
So, Matt, I know you've got a bunch of people here, and I know some people have been putting stuff in chat. I'd love to hear, I can sit here and talk all day, you know that, but I'd love to hear some of the ones that other ones that they love to use, because besides the case studies that are the ones that I've brought forward, I know there's other ones that I haven't even thought of or I haven't done, and I love to get ideas from other people and hear about how they're using it, because that gives me that aha moment to go, oh, somebody did have that, and I didn't think about I could use this tool for that. So I don't know if you want to open it up and ask anybody else if they've got any other cool ones, or if you just want to quiz me for some more. So I just thought I'd throw that idea out there.
Yeah, no, and that's actually something I was going to ask is if anyone had any questions for Robin, but also if anyone would like to share as well. We do always have open forum. Typically, we're asking, for people to ask their questions. But I would always love to hear our clients' use cases. And I can't promise anyone's going to be extroverted enough to come join us here. Uh, you
I
know,
know some of the people on the call. There's some extroverts on this call.
Yeah, well, I certainly, wouldn't mind if it's in the chat or if someone's feeling brave and wants to come and join us on the call, we would be more than happy for that as well.
So there was a question in chat that I'm just going to answer that's not Quickbase related, but they asked what city in Texas, and I am south of Houston.
I think I had it exact though, Friendswood, right?
Yeah, Friendswood. Yeah, but nobody knows. We're 40,000 people. It's like Ronkonkoma. Nobody knows where that is.
Oh, oh.
Yep.
Well, if anyone's ever been on the Long Island Railroad, you know where Ronkonkoma is.
I just get excited when I see it on Law and Order. They use Ronkonkoma every once in a while. I'm like, I know that city.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, no, it's definitely small. And I was really happy to come to your guys' office. I definitely learned a thing or two. Francisco said, "Do you guys have any container terminals on your portfolio?" I think that's more towards you, Robin.
Yeah, so we do have a company that loads and does the loading and unloading of the containers at the terminal. So yes, we have one.
Well, that's good to know. Francesco might be, messaging you after this. I think I had your contact information available. I'll just put it back in there now. But not VARC yet. I like how you put yet, Francesco. And I just want to put some information that Robin had sent me over in the chat too, just in case anyone wanted to reach out. We really do have a great partnership with Robin. Being able to come to their office, she hasn't been to our office yet, not that I know of, but
I've not. That was a stab. All right, hint, hint, got it.
but when we were able to visit there, it was an awesome environment. They had something called the War Room, which I really appreciated. It was all the developers together, and it's really collaborative. Those are things I really liked about VARC, and it was definitely a family-like atmosphere, which I can definitely relate to here at Juiced. It's very similar. But I think
you like the Nerf guns. Let's be real.
I wasn't I wasn't gonna bring that up, but yes. Yeah, so I guess, unless anyone's feels like they have any questions based off of, I heard
Hey,
someone.
Robin, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Just curious, how do you find working with us from installation to support? Just as a question, just to see what your take.
So
I think
you
we
or
can.
Keith? I'm just kidding.
Oh,
So
don't say me.
So no, the team is great to work with. I know that anytime we've had any questions, Chris is amazing. She'll jump on. Manil is great. Everybody has their specialties. That's one of the other things that we did is when we wrote up on the board, we said, okay, for this tool, who's our point of contact at Juice? And we went through every tool, so that we know who that point of contact is, so that we're not just blasting it out there. But we've never had to wait. We get answers. There's been a couple things that it's like, okay, we've had issues with. They've troubleshot it with us. I've got, unless I'm talking about Keith, I've never had any complaints. I'm just kidding, Keith. I've never had any complaints. You guys are very responsive. And then even when there's been issues coming from Quickbase that have affected you guys' tools, you guys are very communicative in letting us know what's going on so that we can let our clients know. You tell us what you need to help because with Quickbase, sometimes things are out of your control, but you've always been very communicative. And even if it's been after hours, we've been able to get a hold of somebody if there's been something that has gone seriously wrong. And usually it's a user something has gone seriously wrong, not something wrong with the tool. So let me preface that. But the experience is great. As your team has grown, everybody has been very good in getting help. And if it's something that they don't handle, then they pass us off to the right person, and it's a very clean handoff.
That's great. And
All right, thanks, Rob. I appreciate that.
yeah, no, that was a good thing to bring up, Todd. And of course, not everyone's gonna, have the same level of partnership with us as Robin does. Support, you might get someone different on the team every single time. But we do use Quickbase, of course, as well as our own tools to go through support. And we all kind of are able to see that chain. So we're able to follow along and not just kind of have to catch up based off those emails.
And one more highlight back to Robin though. She is a QuickBooks expert as well. So if you have any QuickBooks related questions about how Quickbase and QuickBooks can work together, whether it be desktop or the online version, she can certainly help you out, steer you in the right direction. She has an add-on herself or a tool that she calls Q to Q that can help you, communicate back and forth with Quickbase and QuickBooks. So definitely, if you have any QuickBooks questions, reach out to Robin. She can help you out for sure.
I know I have sent my clients to her.
Yeah. But we don't even try to go down that path because people ask us, hey, you got all these great tools. Do you have a QuickBooks integration? We say no, but we have a great partner that can do that for you, and we pass you right on to Robin.
Yeah, and we definitely appreciate that. I did see, I thought I saw something pop up in chat, but I don't see it now. Somebody said, who do we talk to at VARC? You can either ask for me or ask for Brad. Those are going to be probably the best people to reach out to. I'm probably going to push you to Brad because I'm generally on the phone doing development projects most of the day. But either one of us, and we'll get you taken care of.
So one last call. Anybody have any questions? Want to bring anything else up? Share any use cases?
Well, one thing I want to make sure to also point out is, this was our first interview, and Robin, we really appreciate you coming on here with us. And I think this has been really informative. And I'm sure I'm going to be highlighting this back to future clients as well when they ask questions about use cases, as well as how other people use our add-ons. I think that this is really important to highlight. I do want your guys' feedback though. When we end this call, we always do have, kind of a little poll, a little survey you could fill out. Definitely give us your feedback. We'd love to hear it. And of course, if you have any questions for Robin, we put the contact information there, varcsolutions.com, as well as the number. Like Robin just mentioned, ask for herself or Brad. And again, if you watch this in the future and you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to support and we'd be happy to get to them. One thing I did notice is no one put any questions in the chat earlier when we said open forum. So I guess no one had any questions this week anyway. But as always, we will be here next week with a new topic. I think we're going to be going towards Courier. I have one if we are doing questions. Mike, we always have time for your questions. Oh, Mike, we always make time for you. What's up?
Are you doing, is this like open forum for other add-on questions or just about this session?
If you have an add-on question, we'll take it.
I was just wondering if anyone has tried, or if you guys have tried to know if it's possible to utilize the somewhat new, I think it's like 6 months old. You can do %% RID, % to get the record ID of a newly created record. Right now, you can use that in like formula rich text buttons to grab your record ID and land on that record or reference it or something like that. Now, I was wondering if I could pass that through when I do say like a signature. My use case is a lot of times we'll pass an iPad around with signatures and they'll say sign, and then they'll want to do like save and next, save and next, save and next. But when you're doing save and next, it doesn't have a record ID yet. So normally you have to save it and then go back in. So basically the question is, I've tried to pass, if you look at your signature formula in the button, there's a record ID, and I've tried to just kind of utilize it in the same way that functionality would work, but I think it might get URL encoded or something on your side and get messed up. I'm not sure. I was just wondering if anyone on the call has tried that, if you guys have tried it. Anything like that to be able to, this would even work for EFPs, right? To be able to use their functionality to use your guys' buttons on a new record.
I'll say this, Mike, unless Keith has something, we'll have to get back with one of the developers and have to get back to you on that one, because that is a first for me, unless Robin might have some insights, maybe.
I do not.
Yeah, we played around with that because I know where you're getting at, Mike, because you want to be able to expose the signature button or any of our buttons on add record instead of waiting till the record exists.
Yeah.
And I know we've messed around with a way to try to use that value or that variable that Quickbase offers, but we haven't been successful with that. I mean, I know that there's some other there's a lot of smart people on here, but I was wondering if maybe someone like Joe Acunzo or Flora Hillier or even Don, have you guys had an opportunity to try to take advantage of that variable that Mike's talking about to try to grab the record ID before the record's actually saved?
Man, Keith, you're really calling people out. I usually
I've used it successfully in normal applications, but it doesn't like it in that. I mean, I always find workarounds. I think we've all found workarounds. It's all I mean, all the add-ons are great. And there's always a workaround, but I keep staring at that thing thinking, gosh, somehow I have to be able to present this or pass this.
Yeah, we wanted to
RID.
We wanted to too, but we haven't been successful with like grabbing that and being able to pass it in. That's why all of our add-ons, as we state all the time, they can only really be executed during view or edit record. They can't be accessible on add record.
All right, no problem. Just wondering if anyone had figured,
Mike,
figured it out.
if we get it to work, you'll be the first to know.
Well, if we were able to get it to work, I mean, we would use it for all of our add-ons.
Yeah.
We know that that's something that we get asked a lot about, and because even our wizards, when the wizards run, they set up we don't have the ability to hide our buttons on add view or on record. So they're always exposed when the wizards set up, and some people expect them to work on add record and they don't. And our responsibility is, well, you really can only you should only make them visible on edit and view and not on add.
Yeah, I know it can't be passive. It's URL encoded, and I'm thinking that base 64 encoding might mess it up too. So I think somehow we'd have to pull it out of that, but I'm not sure. I get confused after that. But anyways, I won't take up more of everyone's time.
That's a good question, though, Mike. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yep, thank you. Well, I think we'll wrap it up with that. Robin, thank you again. You were awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, Robin.